Retired lay faculty and staff shared their experiences with Franciscan Friars of the Sacred Heart Province in dedication of the 163 years of service to Quincy University.
I ran into this gentleman by the name of Father Harry Speckman. He became my mentor because he asked me, he found out that I had a radio show in Bloomington Normal, and I had just relocated here, and I was also working for the National Public Radio at that time up there. He says, I have something for you. I have a project for you. And I thought, okay, project, priest, what can go wrong? I get over to the station, and I said, well, what type of program do you want, and how long is it going to be? And he said, you figure it out. This was the first night. So I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, okay, I'll just play music. And he said, you need a name. And I said, well, what about Jazz Waves? He said, okay, how about Jazz Waves with Mike Smith? And I thought, oh, okay, I really like that. So that's how, that is my best memory.
Oh, I had one with Father J.J. Lakers all the time. He was a big soccer fan. And we'd go to the game, and I worked the soccer games parking cars or taking tickets, whatever. And he'd come by me every time we were there, he'd say, Kevin, you know what? I'd say, I know, Father, after the soccer game, find you or watch the soccer game together.
And then Father Bill Spencer was just here a few years ago, and he was the provincial before he came to be the campus minister. A little something about Brother Ed, when he was here, he liked to do ghost hunting and paranormal stuff, and so once in a while we would do that with them, with some other groups of people that would go with him, and we went to the mausoleum one time at night with our flashlights, and we went down to Hanwell and went to one of the, like Garth Mansion or something, and had dinner down there and kind of did a little tour of the house and things like that. So just something fun that it's not what you would think the normal priest would do, but
I don't know if this is kosher, and you might cut this out, but they like to drink a little bit, you know. And I was on Sunday night sometimes, I'd have this package, and I was a courier. I felt like a courier, and I'd have to go over to the liquor store and bring this liquor back. And I thought that was funny. I thought it was really hilarious. I don't know if it was because they didn't want to be seen going to the liquor store, but anyway, I did that. And had a lot of good times with them. We used to sit around and laugh and joke.
They treated like you were part of the group, you know.
The Friars not only had an impact on Quincy University, but the community that surrounded it.
The campus was very calming when you saw these guys walking around, and students were they were very approachable. So that's something you don't have on regular campuses. And
not only do they help at the university, but also in the entire community. A lot of them go out and help in individual parishes. Some of them are involved in other community organizations.
The other part of that is, and I'm simplifying this, is the art and the value of servant leadership. They are servant leaders.
That was what was required as a Franciscan. You had to put yourself aside and do what was asked of you.
The Franciscans really value forgiveness. And I always thought I was a fairly forgiving person, you know, but I've learned from the Franciscans how to blend that forgiveness with kindness.
The Friars were seen as friends as well as mentors.
Father Titus was my supervising teacher when I was teaching at junior high, and he told me the first day we were going in, he says, now when the bell rings, he says, you just grab a hold of a locker and let them go. He says, don't try to get in with them because they'll run you over. And he was so big that I don't know why he would ever think of that. He was always late for class. And sometimes students would leave the elevator door open upstairs. We used to have a wooden elevator door. And if you left the door open, the elevator wouldn't run. And so his class was on the 4th floor, and they'd leave the door open up so that he couldn't get up. And so he'd have to find somebody to run upstairs and close the elevator door for him, which made him even later for class, and so they like to have the shorter classes.
That's memory. Father Harry, the late Father Harry, is really, really, really good gentleman. Very good to me. He truly was my mentor and my introduction to Quincy University and all that it had to offer.
And particularly Father Gabriel, who I think was probably the best president we've had at Quincy University. He used to enjoy discussing things with people. He would always take the opposite side. No matter what a person was promoting, he would take the opposite side just to make the person convince him that he had the right approach. And I always enjoyed sitting there watching him because I knew what he was doing. And the other thing about him was he always had this little felt-tip pen and some paper that he made notes on and that he did calculations on. And invariably, the calculations were always wrong, but they were really close to the right answer. So I always enjoyed that.
I'd say Father John Doctor. His office was pretty close to mine, and he could become a consultant for me in a way, because I could drop by his office and say, because I would do maybe 10 meetings a day some days, and I say to him, hey, here's what I'm facing, and he would have this soothing answer to a lot of things.
I'd like to also mention about Father Ken. Father Ken and Father John Doctor went on a CC trip with them, my husband and a group of people from Quincy that were alums and things went there one time, and then like 4 years later we went with Father John and Dr. Bacardi, and we took some students along and some more alum, and those were great times. The funniest part on the second time with Father John, we had weather problems when we got to Chicago, and the plane couldn't take off to take us, so we had to wait till the next day. So we got there like 6 in the morning to catch the plane, and then we finally got on. We're sitting out on the tarmac. They had some kind of electrical problem up in the radar thing with a fire in the bathroom or something like that. So we sat out on the tarmac for like 3 more hours, and so we're all just sitting there going, oh my gosh, you're never going to get out of here. And so Father John gets up and he goes, just remember, we're making memories. So he likes to use that a lot when we're seeing him and reminds us we're making memories.
And he was a great guy. In fact, one of our book scholarships is named after him, Father Victor Herman. And he was a registrar, and he had all kinds of positions here, and that was part of the obedience that he had to give.
Some of my favorite teachers was like Father F.J. Gray, Father Ken Capalbo, Father Aaron Pemberton, and Father Tom Brown. My degree was in art, so I had Father Tom a few times for that. And I enjoyed the teachers that I had, especially the Friars.
Father Francis Jerome Gray, he was a history professor. He had an office next door to me. And one day he popped out of his office, came over and took my picture, and he disappeared. And then later on he came back with a framed photo of me at my desk. And I thought, okay. But he was one of the Franciscans that John Mahoney, whom you may have heard about, the fellow who was on Frasier, he was somebody that worked with John Mahoney when he was here, and John Mahoney had a memory of Francis Jerome, or FJ they called him, would arrive with a bag of groceries or toiletries because he was short on money, and FJ would hear about that and sort of just give it to him. But there were a lot of nice, sweet stories and small stories that, and many big stories too.
The one with Father Aaron Pemberton, it was a 400 level history class, and there was like maybe 26 people in the class to start off the first thing, and so he handed out the syllabus, and the next time we met there was only about 13 people in that class. They all dropped because it wasn't what they wanted to do, and the whole class stayed there except for one person had to leave in the middle of the semester for another reason or something, but the rest of us stuck it out.
Retired lay faculty and staff believed that Franciscan values still held importance for Quincy University.
I think if they wouldn't have been there through all the times when we had issues with money and things like that, and that they helped us out, I don't think QU would still be going. I think we would have had to shut down a few different times.
Franciscans tend to cherish individuality. They themselves are all individuals, and they relish individuality. And so we had a lot of characters on campus who were Franciscans. You know, they could sort of demand that you do things that maybe somebody else might not be able to get you to do as a faculty member, because they would say, you know, this is what you got to do. But they were characters. They valued individuality. They welcomed people. They were generous in the way in which they approached all kinds of folks. I mean, I was one of the earliest women faculty members here with an advanced degree, and I was a curiosity to them. But it was good. They still wanted to know about me, and they wanted to know about my, you know, about what made me tick. I think that that was one of the hallmarks of them, is that they had a lot of tolerance for difference.
You didn't just see 3 or 4, you saw they were everywhere. And they taught classes too as well. So I garnered so much wisdom from them. I was a young man then. I wasn't a 70-year-old crazy man like I am today, but they had so much wisdom. And now that I'm older, I understand we can give wisdom to you guys.
I would say to today's student, don't be too concerned how many Franciscans are on campus. Don't be too concerned about Franciscan, the nature of Franciscan, because you are a good Franciscan, and you will exude Franciscanism to the people you meet, all your fellow students, and all the teachers today will do the same.
What they bring to the university, as well as the entire community, is the Franciscan spirit of caring. And maybe might even mention, you know, the quote attributed to St. Francis is, preach the gospel and use words if necessary. I think they imbue that spirit.
We all spread Franciscanism by what we do, so that's what I believe.